get your thoughts on this Kirk Cousins being benched deal. It's obviously a big deal here in Washington as well because Atlanta is chasing Washington for the seventh wild card, or the last wild card, the seventh playoff spot, and they play each other next Sunday night. We have no idea how Penix is going to play. Now Atlanta's kind of a mystery, but give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I'm told behind the scenes with Penix, he's actually come on in recent weeks, has a better grasp of this kind of scheme that they're running with the Falcons. And, it's a West Coast scheme that Zach Robinson's brought in there, and they feel like he could handle it. Penix is a really gifted quarterback. Saw him at the Senior Bowl. The issue with him is pretty significant injury history. He's a little bit older, and they got to be patient. But it's the timing of this is fascinating. Now, the reason why they benched Cousins simply he was playing so poorly that they felt they had to do this now.
Yeah.
And you look at the opponent. I know that clubs will never say this publicly. Trust me, when the Giants being on the schedule, that had a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm,
the game's at Atlanta.
Yeah.
They play the Giants. But now they'll never say this publicly. They're never going to disparage an opponent. But I could tell you from talking to coaches over the years and front offices, it's always a joint decision. When's the best time to get this guy in there? Now, you mentioned the Cousins contract.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, $27.5 million fully guaranteed. I got the breakdown last night. He actually has a $10 million roster bonus due the following year that becomes fully guaranteed this March. So clearly he's not going to play again. They're going to have to find a team. Now, my early work from talking to several teams, there are about 7 teams now who cannot tell you who their starting quarterbacks next season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the early word in the draft is they're probably right now they're only going to be 2 quarterbacks who go in the first round.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that a couple segments ago. I listed all the teams that probably need quarterbacks. I came up with 7. Now I included teams I came up with 7 because I included the Jets because the Jets need to move on from Aaron Rodgers. But you're right. There's only this draft class isn't going to be like last year's.
Well, Rodgers.
No, I know Caleb Williams has not played well lately. He's shown some flashes. Daniels is way ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Daniels is the big reason why the Washington Commanders are probably going to make the playoffs. It's been a great story. Certainly could talk about him and talk to the Commanders about how they feel about everything. But it's been a fascinating year, and we've been talking about this a lot, in various outlets. That this season has been fascinating. It's very top heavy in the National Football League.
Yep.
Seems like there are more bad teams than ever in the National Football League. They're like 18 or 19 teams that are really not very good.
Will Rodgers resurface anywhere, or is this it? I mean, if they have so many other teams that need quarterbacks, maybe one of. I mean, if you're Cleveland,
first of all, he turns 42 next December. He has to decide whether he wants to play.
Right.
He's already told their media that he wanted to come back, which would indicate he wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes one team to want a player. I wouldn't rule it out. What we have to see, because again, the juniors are not even declared yet. We have to still see. I'll be at the Senior Bowl. We'll have to see what the quarterback group looks like. But overall, what I was told, probably only 2 go in the first round. The Alabama quarterback, Milroe, he'll go. He won't get out of the second round, but it's for him to go in the first round. You really got to fall in love with the guy because he's unbelievable running the football.
Yeah.
It's how good of a passer do you think he can be? That the only way you could draft him in the first round is you think eventually he could become a good passer. So yeah, I would agree. Look, if we don't have 20 minutes here, so I'm just overall when I look at the teams that need a quarterback, it's just a matter of are they willing to take a stopgap for one season, and that's where it goes with Rodgers.
Yeah, I included the Carolina Panthers in those 7 just because of. And I have no idea if they're going to move on from Bryce Young or if they're going to give him one more chance. But I threw Carolina in there because
you also threw Indy in there.
I threw Indy in there. I mean, Richardson is dreadful.
They talking to them. They seem like at worst they'll bring someone in to compete against them. But it sounds to me that they're committed to seeing this out now.
Okay.
There's some other issues going there. Their offensive line's had some problems. He struggled. Look, if you recall last year before he hurt his shoulder, actually played pretty well for 3 games, and then he missed the rest of the season. Did not have a good training camp or preseason. Got off to a bad start. Got benched. Came back, played well for 1 game, and then it's been mediocre since then.
Talk about Jayden a little bit. Obviously, we've been fascinated watching his development here. Clearly, he's put them on the radar. They're right there on the cusp of a playoff spot here. It's going to be challenging next couple of weeks because the Eagles game will be difficult, and then you never know what you're going to get with the Falcons now. But Jayden has just been phenomenal. I kind of like everything I see with the kid, his demeanor, his work ethic. I mean, his phenomenal athletic ability. He's making some tight window throws. I think that people are underappreciating. Everything about the kid has just been great.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury has done an excellent job spreading things out for him. Cliff runs a very quarterback-friendly offense, I'm told, so I think that's really helped. But talking to the Commanders about Daniels, one of the things they really love is he's often the first guy in the building. He actually beats the coaches there a lot. And that's what you want from your franchise quarterback, and they clearly believe he is. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows, I'm sure, what happened on Hard Knocks. The Giants really wanted him. There were a lot of teams that really had Daniels as the first quarterback over Caleb Williams, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. But you love the leadership, super smart kid. He's got it all. He's got everything that you want. Now, Adam Peters, the general manager, you just got to build around him. They've got to help McLaurin on the other side. They're going to have. So if we rank like, okay, well, what will it take for them to take a big step next season? They clearly are ahead of schedule. It's two more big. They need two receivers. Someone to help McLaurin on the other side.
Yeah.
They've overachieved their offensive line. I think you're talking to other teams that have graded Washington's roster or gone up against them. The coaching from Bobby Johnson's been very good, but it's not a very talented offensive line. Peters just got to rebuild this offensive line a little bit. Biotis has been good. Cosme's a great player, but the tackle situation, Allegretti's okay. They have to figure out what Brandon Coleman is. Is he a left tackle for the future? If he is, fine. Keep him there. Don't move him again. Defensively, they need more edge rushers. Corner's another position they've got to look at. See, the thing with Lattimore is I know he's back. You never know. Folks, he's had chronic hamstring problems going back to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. You just can't count on that. So they're ahead of schedule. I like what they've done, but the work is not done, and I'm sure Peters knows this.
So, Adam, the AFC playoff teams are a little bit more clear than the NFC because because of the teams that have clinched and because of there's already 6 teams in the AFC that have already been eliminated. So. Broncos Chargers tomorrow night. It's interesting just because they're right next to each other in the division, and the winner is going to be definitely in, and I assume both teams are in anyway. But the NFC is interesting. We kind of just talked about it with the Commanders and the Falcons. The Rams are just on fire now that Stafford's got 2 legit healthy receivers to throw to, and then Seattle is dicey now because of Geno's injury. So your thoughts on the NFC West right now? And Arizona's still hanging around. They're 7-7, and they still have some big games left within the division. But your thoughts on the NFC West as a whole with the Rams right now leading over the Seahawks? Yeah,
and by the way, the Seahawks would have lost that game if Geno Smith didn't get hurt. I mean, they just played poorly. I was stunned at how poorly they played. You never know with Seattle. I mean, of all teams, Daniel Jones' probably his best game this season was at Seattle, ironically. Sometimes with Seattle, you just never know what you're going to get. And by the way, they're not a dominant home team anymore. Mm-hmm. It's very odd to me. Now, they're very talented. They've taken this new offensive scheme under Ryan Grubb. They're no longer a run team; they're a passing team. It's actually Geno's done a good job of it. Yeah, the Rams have kind of surprised me, guys. I didn't see this. They've turned their season around after a terrible start. Sean McVay's a phenomenal coach. When you look at the Rams thing, yes, their offense has kind of taken off again. If they got Nakua back and Cooper Kupp, but it's their no-name defense. Jared Verse is good, really in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I vote in 2 polls, and I'm leaning towards him. I know that Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles, has played pretty well, but they've gotten a lot of mileage out of guys most fans probably have not heard of. Stafford's playing very, very well. They've had a lot of injuries on their offensive line. In fact, they had 4 starters out 1 week, but they're getting healthier. They're playing really good football. That Bills game 2 weeks ago was the game of the year. It was one of the strangest games I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But look, they've turned their season around. You're right. Right now, they'd have a little bit of an edge over the Seahawks just because they're the healthier team. But it's can Geno Smith not only play this week, play well? That's the key. But I think right now, because of what's happened, it's wide open between the Rams and the Seahawks. And I just cannot believe, by the way, the 49ers fall this season. I clearly did not see that coming.
Yeah, well, they're murdered with injuries, and Purdy hasn't been as good.
But even so, guys, they lost to the Cardinals earlier at home this season.
Yeah,
they've had some bad losses.
The defense hasn't been as good, especially in the fourth quarter. I agree. Real quick, before we let you go, your thoughts on the Steelers-Ravens game on Saturday. That's the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday.
Yeah, and the Steelers, like the Chiefs, they have 3 games in 11 days. Talking to the Steelers this week, I look, not having George Pickens was a real problem. There's no question about it. They didn't play Mike Williams a lot, which I don't understand. Elliott was a safety. Sort of a young journeyman, is a good football player. He didn't play in that game, so they felt they were a little bit shorthanded. Pittsburgh beat the heck out of Lamar Jackson in the first matchup. That was the most physical game of the year, by the way. I've actually felt sore watching it. I mean, it was one of those games where you're like, wow. Pittsburgh, now, look, we'll see about George. If it's really hard for them without George Pickens. It's just they're just not the same team. Mm-hmm. And Baltimore have revenge on their mind. They're trying to, Baltimore's another team. They've kind of they went through a lull there. I like Baltimore, though, to bounce back and get a little revenge on the Steelers, which, by the way, was one of the best rivalries in the National Football League.
Yeah. Adam, you're the best, man. Have a great holiday, and maybe we'll talk to you before the end of the regular season, especially if the Commanders are playing must-win games.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.